Yeah, I bought all these old vintage BB shirts, and they have so much more color saturation. In the 2000s, people were making clothes with color in them. They stopped doing it.
Why?
Because modern people want to wear like faded color, faded everything, neutrals.
Is it cheaper to probably just have less color too?
No, it sure isn't. The theory that Em and I have is that she sent me an article actually about how wearing color is society's equivalent of being a child. So like if you wear a lot of color, you're considered to be like a baby and like a dumbass. So they're trying to remove our joy by pushing this narrative of like beige and like faded neutrals is like so chic and it's so adult. It's so grown up.
It's so grown up.
But you're actually just like kind of killing your inner child by not indulging in color. That's kind of where we sit with that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you have a hard time with color personally?
No, I don't. I certainly don't.
Zoom out to a purple loft.
I tried to do you know what it was? I went through a phase of wearing Free People, which is like one of my favorite brands because they wear like soft, cozy,
I
like
remember that.
bohemian, cute.
Leo Rising phase.
Yo, I went through in Leo Rising, I was wearing like all earth tones and stuff. It's like really faded everything.
Oh yeah. Remember, didn't we go into the store one time and Selena Gomez was in there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were like,
everybody loves Free People, myself included. Okay. They do make some color. They do sell a lot of things that are colorful, but I found myself buying a lot. That was my phase of like buying neutrals and trying to be more subdued and more earthy. And I was like, I'm a Taurus. I'm supposed to like earth colors. And it was funny. As soon as I dyed my hair back to dark and started wearing color, I just instantly looked 20 years younger.
Yeah.
It's
that
like
funny?
you just start to learn. And for those of you that are curious about this, there's actually an app that can, you can upload a picture of yourself and it'll grab like your skin and your eye color and your hair color. And it will give you a color palette that complements you. That was one of the most fascinating things I learned on my self-discovery journey was this. Actually, let me pull it up. I'm going to give you the link to this in the show notes, but this was, this color analysis was huge in my self-discovery adventure. So basically you upload an image of yourself and then you select your skin, your eye, and your hair. They like let you point it out. And then you just say go and it will give you your season, right? So for every color palette, there's like winter, summer, spring, fall. And then they have different color families and stuff that are going to complement you and just make you look your best. And so this was really fascinating to learn for me because I'm a winter girl and I am supposed to be wearing jewel tones. So that's why I've been buying all these vintage BB tops where because they used to make this shit, man.
Vintage BB top with a color on the...
And you deserve to look your best. You know, I've bought a lot of clothes. I was like, I'm going to get that terracotta dress. I do not look good in terracotta. That is not on my color chart. Woohoo! The muse is out. Can you believe this shit?
Fuck yourself.
How many songs have we put out together, you and me?
I'm going to say more than 10.
Not going to underplay this at all. I mean, this is some of our best work yet. If you haven't heard the muse yet, you can hear it on any streaming platform. If you don't stream, what are you doing? No, I'm kidding. We love you anyway, but really take a minute, take your, 20 minutes of music? It's 7 songs. It's super quick.
Yeah, ish, 21, 22.
But this project is so precious to us. And I really wrote these songs to make you feel like the baddest bitch in the world. So enjoy that. I know we're going to be pushing a lot of the songs on TikTok with really funny video ideas that we come up with, and while we're on drugs, which is the topic of today.
Oh my God, we do drugs?
Yes, we figured it was time to probably start talking about this. If you're watching on Patreon, thank you for supporting us. If anybody's interested, it's patreon.com/House of Herby, where we're just giving you a bunch of extra perks and shit, and you can see, more importantly, you can see our outfits and
more importantly, my outfit.
Nick is naked. Yeah. So you're really going to want to join.
They're going to be like, yeah, I kind of wish he did put clothes on.
Yeah. On second thought, let's not do the Patreon. So why are we talking about drugs?
Well, also, if everybody has whatever your favorite song on the Muse was, I would love to hear why,
Who, where, what?
Who, where, what? Why? You know, all of the reporter questions. Hit me with it. Hit me with your best shot.
Oh, man.
Fire away.
I
You know what I'm
imagine
saying?
if I wasn't me and I was a fan of Queen Herby, I would put on the new record, and I'd be sitting on my meditation pillow, and I would close my eyes, and I would have my favorite incense burning, and I would just have a blank piece of paper in front of me, and while it's playing, I would literally just design my dream life to this record.
Nice.
That's really how I feel about it.
Shit. Let's go.
Aggressively so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you have a track on there that sticks out to you more than the rest? One that you're really, really excited about?
Right now, for me, it's Thank Goddess. That's my favorite. So right now.
I might have to also say Thank Goddess. Right now, it might be Thank Goddess. It might also be, Chuck E. Cheese.
Yes. So
Just
Thank
Found
Goddess,
Out, it
Thank
kinda
Goddess
gets me
and
going.
Thank Goddess and Just Found Out are very aggressively like, you are that bitch, go.
But they're kind of soft at the same time. Oh, well, not Thank Goddess, but maybe parts of Just Found Out are a little, like the verses are pretty chill.
Well, Just Found Out is the turning point. So this is when you realize that you're that bitch and there's so much potential in front of you. So that's like very momentum song. And then Thank Goddess is like arrival.
Yeah.
Whereas Chuck E. Cheese is like, you've discovered peace, which is
It's
like
pretty good.
on the Hawkins
take
scale. That's like the highest, one of the highest.
He calls
it's
it
like enlightenment.
That's enlightenment, yeah.
But at the same time, I'm talking about Chuck E. Cheese and ball pits and coins and tokens and skee ball
Smoking weed.
and smoking weed. Yeah, which it brings us back to drugs. Today's topic.
Smoking doobies in a van down by the river.
Those were the original lyrics that we got rid of.
Due to some publishing problems.
We probably can't take the van down by the river.
No, we can. We just can't write about it.
I guess. So why are we talking about drugs today? Well,
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I thought this was a good topic because it was like, okay, so drugs, right? A lot of people will say.
this was Nick's idea. I just want to put that out there.
Why you got to do that? Sorry, Mom. Okay. So drugs also, we could be saying like plants, right? A lot of different things. There were, so this all stemmed from a bunch of different conversations, a bunch of books that we were reading. One of the first ones was How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan, which came out a few years ago.
Yep.
And so this is just a fascinating, there was also a doc on Netflix if anybody wants to check it out and I want to read the book. Though I still highly recommend you read the book because there's going to be a lot more in that.
More factoids.
Yeah, just more shit. And he gives you kind of the whole background and the whole history of them, at least in the United States.
So we're really going to keep this episode focused on the psychedelic and spiritual intersection
totally.
of drugs, right? But
Totally.
I think, of course, I did some research and I want to talk about like drugs, right? Like this whole negative sort of aspect
Connotation or
of
whatever.
what that means, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of stigma. Like whenever you talk
lot.
about drugs, it's a very stigmatized topic. And I just want to get an unbiased view on drugs because I also just love the word. I think the word is wonderful. We used to have like a drugstore in my hometown and it was just like Murray Drug. And I was like, damn, that's cool. Like it's such a vibe, but what is all this stigma, right? And I feel like this is aligned with House of Herby because the research about drugs, especially lately, has shown significant improvement for people dealing with depression and anxiety. And a lot of these studies are showing like drastic improvement of like emotional well-being in one single use.
Absolutely. And so to clarify too, we're talking about specifically not like a drug like an Ambien or a Xanax or something like that.
Right, which we call pharmaceuticals.
Those are pharmaceuticals, right? That's all great and well if you need some probably try not to do those like all the time. See, I don't want to be giving advice.
I know.
I totally don't want to be giving advice
that's
at
another thing
all.
we just got to say at the beginning of the episode. We're not professionals.
We're not professionals, but we do.
But our government does control all of the above, right? So there's like schedules. There's like drug schedules of like pharmaceutical drugs. And then
at 10 o'clock, you do
psychedelic.
cocaine. 10:30, cannabis.
Nick has a drug schedule as well.
Is that what we were talking about?
But the government has played a really big role in stigmatizing certain types of drugs, right? So we're interested because it's healing people, and that's like my vibe.
Specifically more like
Mushrooms, which are creating new
what
pathways
do we
in the
call them?
brain.
Psychedelics.
Well, we call them psychedelics.
Yeah, get on your bike.
Yeah, we have this
and
joke.
take some acid.
Shout out to my brother Eric, who we're not talking about psychedelics together, but
No.
we do text him a lot of jokes, and one of them is a frog on a unicycle
Yes.
GIF,
Yeah.
and we always
Just
say
tripping balls.
psychedelics
Yeah.
because we like
Just
misspelled
losing his
it.
mind.
Yeah. Anyways, So that's really, we're trying to make this a fun, not dark topic, but we should probably touch on the dark stuff. So pharmaceuticals are widely abused, especially opiates. That's a huge problem.
Yeah. And I was kind of more like thinking we just kind of talk about the more of the healing,
yes. But I think the stigma gets in the way of people being willing to listen or learn about mushrooms or.
One of the interesting things about
cannabis.
Yeah,
cannabis is very healing. At least we have it approved in over half of our states now.
Yeah. What are the numbers? I think it's
legal.
It's legal in 19. So like recreational in 19 states.
Recreational.
I'm pretty sure.
That's really high.
And medicinal in 36.
Damn.
Yeah. So I mean, we're not far away from having it be 25, like half of the country.
Yep.
And probably at that point, you would think it's a matter of time before it becomes federally. Not illegal.
We're up to 21, actually. 21 states have it legalized for, did you say 21?
I said 19.
21 for recreational.
Damn, 21, bro.
Yo, that's crazy.
It's changing so fast.
It is.
Yeah, so fascinating because I think there are a lot of layers to this, and I think the history of them. So like studying jazz, at least at Berkeley. This was all, I mean, they literally call them jazz cigarettes.
Right.
All of this is pretty much like black jazz origins.
Yes, cannabis came to America. So we watched an amazing documentary. I need to get the title of it. It's about how cannabis came to America and how it's been also so stigmatized. Yeah. I mean, can we go over like the stigma stuff and then we'll get out of that and get into the fun?
Yeah, okay.
stuff.
All right, hit the stigma.
So drugs are dangerous. First of all, okay, this is not a light topic. A lot of people have had their lives ruined by drugs. So we are saying that if you're consuming them, you have to be responsible, right?
Yeah.
So period. We don't need to go into depths on that. Mm-hmm. But systemic racism and like white supremacy has played a huge role in like the drug, President Nixon and the war on drugs, where he basically called like cocaine and crack cocaine two different drugs.
Right.
It's the same drug. But the cocaine, which is more refined and expensive, was used by the white population, and the crack, which was a little less expensive, was used by mostly communities of color.
And there's different ways.
Where they were disproportionately imprisoned for crimes, right?
Yeah.
So this is like going way back. Now, cannabis, which according to this documentary, came through the Black community, especially the music creative community. Mm-hmm. And they started calling it marijuana, which is not the name of it. It's called cannabis. They called it marijuana to demonize it further by making it sound foreign.
Scary. Yeah.
So still to this day, when I see, like, we applied for a life insurance and they were like, do you use marijuana? I was like, okay, this clearly means if you say yes, they will penalize you.
And no questions at all about drinking.
Not a single fucking question.
Isn't that crazy?
About alcohol
Still,
on a life
to this
insurance.
day. And that's how you know, like, the people writing this form or this questionnaire are old.
Are 70,000 years old. Okay.
They are not caught up to what's...
I just want to say the name of the documentary is Grass is Greener.
Thank you.
Grass is greener.
Grass is greener. This is so fascinating if you love music and you love cannabis. And it's just so important for us to understand where this came from, because we still have disproportionately more Black people in prison, incarcerated right now for cannabis-related crimes. Like, it's way out of proportion. Kids are growing up without fathers, mothers, whatever. Like, it's just not cool. And if we're about to legalize it federally, like, that needs to be addressed. I think everybody agrees with that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Some states are trying to start to do that, I think.
Yeah,
they're getting a ton of pressure.
They're starting to get people out of prison.
Yeah, because it's now legal, and they got caught. They got put in jail for having, like, usually what happens is they get put in jail for a small amount of weed. Not every case, okay? But they have a little bit of weed. They get put in jail, and they don't have enough money to get bailed out, to bail themselves out, so they stay.
And
so that's kind of the toxic cycle.
Disproportionately affecting communities of color. So that's what we really need to. And this Grass is Greener documentary is so much better at explaining this than we're doing. But it's crazy what they did to make it feel more dangerous than it actually is. I remember when I was, like, interested in cannabis, and I was looking back on my childhood, like, where I come from, it's looked at as, like, worse than heroin. Like,
devil's lettuce.
And that reminded me of the DARE program. Do y'all remember the DARE program?
Of course.
Did you know that it wasn't effective?
I did not. I was going to say, that's how I met my drug dealer.
It wasn't effective beyond having some cool merch.
Yeah. Right. Which we still love to wear.
Still love to
Thanks,
wear.
Urban
Which we still
Outfitters.
love to wear.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's so wild. I mean,
So tell me why wasn't it effective?
So they're hypothesizing that the DARE program didn't work because it was delivered by policemen instead of recovering addiction professionals, like people that actually understand what a drug addiction is.
Okay.
So like instead of like bringing in a recovered drug addict to communicate with children, the police were like, don't do it, which made people want to do it.
Well, right. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Or a lot of people
don't have sex, everybody. The last thing you should ever do is have sex. And you're going to be like, oh, I think I want that.
Bringing it back to communities of color, there are populations of people that don't trust policemen at all.
Right.
So if you're telling me not to do it, but it's like, well, my uncle sells it or whatever, like it's not okay. So that's funny. Prohibition. I mean, we're going back to the 1920s now. We have had this ongoing battle with like trying to control humans and drugs. Mm-hmm. So I just find that very fascinating. It's almost like this forbidden. I wonder if that was like the Garden of Eden fruit. And in actuality, it was like, opiate apple from the tree. And it's like, no, we don't want you to see what God sees.
Yeah. It's interesting. There was some article or somebody, I think it was a Hawkins thing. He was saying like alcohol calibrates really low. But what a lot of these things do is they suppress your egoic tendencies. So they allow like your self to come through more, which is why it's so pleasing and so euphoric.
Right.
Because
and easily
that's what
becoming addictive.
Super.
For some
absolutely.
people.
Yeah, absolutely. And chemically, if your body is more inclined to, there's a lot of alcoholism on my side of the family.
Yep.
Classic, stereotypical Irish,
I feel like it falls into everybody's family.
No, it does. Also, alcohol, we could do a whole fucking thing on booze too. It's so, in my personal opinion.
By the way, we're not on any drugs right now. We're just drinking alcohol during this podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're also hypocrites. And this is just we're removing the stigma. We're balancing the scales. We want you to know.
Because listen, alcohol is still a good time, don't get me wrong. It's not like you can't, if anybody's struggling with addiction or any of this stuff, like you definitely don't need it. But if you have someone was doing this chart of like how dangerous different drugs are, and they had it kind of in two different groups, like the reaction that it had on your body, like how much you wanted to come back for it, the addictive qualities, and then also like socially was a huge, how available is it, blah, 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 whatever. Alcohol scaled more intensely or higher up than heroin did. Because it was so addictive and also fucking everywhere.
Destroys your body and destroys your relationships with other people.
All of it. But it's also just still so commonplace. It's still just accepted. Pretty much almost throughout every culture.
Yeah. So the clickbait of this study that was done by David Nutt, who's an MD in London, right? I looked this up too because I remember the study and I was like fascinated by this. Alcohol abuse is more harmful than heroin abuse was the clickbait title.
Wow.
But that's because, partially because alcohol is so available and so socially acceptable that you're encouraged to consume it.
Yeah.
So it's like,
you're like, you're a pussy if you don't, or like you don't,
Nobody's,
you can't handle your liquor.
You don't go to have dinner with a friend and they're like, would you like some heroin? Don't be a pussy.
Don't be a pussy.
It's like, no, but he ranked from 0 to 100 based on social availability, physical harm to self and others.
There you go.
So it was like alcohol rated 72 out of 100.
Jesus.
For the danger levels, right? And then the bottom of this, so then it was like heroin next. So it's a very misleading title. So heroin's still very dangerous.
Crazy intense.
And cannabis was like halfway down because again, it's more available. It's becoming so available now. And it is easy to abuse as well. We have some friends actually who've gotten like cannabinoid poisoning.
A few.
From
We've met a bunch of people.
Too high volume of edibles.
I have a whole thing. We're going to talk about edibles in a minute.
But then finishing this up. So the very bottom was mushrooms at a 5 out of 100 for danger and all that stuff.
No way.
So again, the mushrooms is what a lot of these documentaries are about. And it's been really transformative for a lot of people. Yeah.
The healing thing for the most part is going to be psilocybin, which is the active ingredient in mushrooms and LSD. And then there's couple other too. There's like DMT. There's now MDMA is becoming a big thing.
Yep, or ecstasy.
Yeah. So we haven't done all the drugs.
But we haven't done all of them, but we've done an assortment we're going to save for the end. I think we should hit them all.
Yeah, well, we should probably just talk about our experiences and like what we think about it.
My favorite.
Yeah.
So I would say you and I both are down for responsible use of drugs if you're in a healthy mental state. I think that's like the biggest, they say like setting, all the, there's all these things.
Setting.
Do your research, like really make sure you're in a good mental space, because they do really affect the mind the most. I would say all of these substances.
Absolutely.
And if you're not in a good state of mind, they say, like, if you're going through trauma, like, don't just grab a bottle of whiskey. Like, that's not going to be good.
What I found is every time, whatever mood I'm already in, I think there was only once or twice I tried to get like drunk or stoned because I didn't feel good.
Distress.
All it did was make me feel way worse.
Yeah. So we don't recommend that.
It heightened the awfulness.
Yeah.
So don't do that. Be centered with who you are first before you try any of this shit to have it like help you out of a problem. I think, because it's never done that for me.
Right.
It's only exacerbated it. Is that the right word?
Yeah. And just make sure you're in a safe atmosphere and setting. And if you're with people that you trust, that really helps so much. So the company or the organization that is leading all this research on psychedelics is MAPS, and it's Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies. Mm-hmm. And how fun. Like, really, their focus is mushrooms, because that has had such a profound, like, researched effect on people's well-being, like especially PTSD folks.
It's huge in that. And also people who do microdosing.
Yeah.
So microdosing is if you were to take like a very small amount.
Yes.
And they say, so it's like, what are the things we have? It's like 1/10 of a gram. So you have one of those. I think what they say is you take 1 day on, 2 days off, 1 day on, 2 days off.
Yep.
And literally what it does is it helps reconnect the pathways in your brain
that were shut down from depression, anxiety, trauma. There's a lot of patients that are like terminal, right? Like the doctor has said, like, it's not, you might not make it from this. And so for them, going on like a pretty heavy trip with a guide is transformational. Like, some people have experienced recoveries from their illness as well.
Can I just say too, in that same documentary, I remember, or there's you're talking about a documentary, right?
I think so.
Yes. So in that same study, there were terminally ill patients who had this experience, and then they didn't fear death anymore.
Exactly.
And that's
they saw the other side.
That's
like,
everything.
Oh, I'm good.
Yeah.
Isn't that insane?
That made me very emotional.
I want that for
like,
everyone. I mean, I want everyone to not fear death.
Well, then you're in the fuck it stage forever. You're like, I get it now.
In other
literally,
words,
this is what everybody says. You see the other side. The curtain comes down. The facade is gone. You can see.
This is a very serious topic. The fact that there has been a war on drugs, and like we are forbidden and it's being abused because there's no information, like, this is a disaster.
Or no information. Usually it's because somebody can't profit a ton off of it. You know,
okay, well, there's a lot
something else.
There's a lot of bad guys in play here.
Well, that's just how it works. If money is still a very valued thing in our society, so naturally that's how it's gonna be shaken down. You know,
and religion.
And
religion.
My
God, another player.
Yeah.
Religione.
Well, again, so if you can take a mushroom or a fucking, acid trip or whatever with somebody, or have this experience where you are not afraid of death anymore.
Yeah, they can't control you no more.
Then there is no power over you. So that is
we're going to be murdered in our sleep. The Illuminatis are coming. What is it? Lumalnati's is actually a really great pizza place in Chicago. They make the best deep dish in town, okay? I remember I was like, Lumalnati's? That sounds like Illuminati.
Illuminatis. I get it.
I know it. It's the
That's
deep dish.
why I can't have dairy.
The deep dish. Okay, so it's How to Change Your Mind. It's Fantastic Fungi. Love that movie.
So Paul Stamets is the guy.
Yeah, for that one, right?
Yeah, or he's a big focus on it. He's also the big guy that they interview for psilocybin on How to Change Your Mind, the Michael Pollan book.
Love that.
Do you know that he actually, check him out on Instagram, all the things, Paul Stamets, fucking great guy.
Yep.
You know, he started off as like a party starter guy.
Really?
Yeah.
What does that mean exactly?
He was the fun guy.
Okay. Oh my God.
It worked. You fell right into
Alex
it.
we didn't even get a response. He just had an exhale.
Yourself.
Just a sadness. Okay.
Paul, if you're listening, I apologize.
Okay. I have also seen some ads on my Instagram, because I love seeing like what ads spring up in my feed, and it's for like ketamine therapies, right? So if you're big into healing, and so they are sending people drugs in a box with a recording, and you're like, they're finding ways to get these therapies to people, and it's really cool to me.
Jesus. It is fascinating. Sorry, you want to keep going? Or are we going to have like,
No, that was,
let's
I
just
just
break
wanted
it
to
down.
get through my notes because this is a heavy episode. And before we get into the fun stuff, I was like, let's just be real. Okay.
Yeah. Because it is, look, like everything in life, something that can be this transformative or this powerful can also be abused and can also
Yes.
be so easily.
And if you're not ready for it, like, just don't do it, babe.
And if you're not ready for it, so set and setting,
If
what
it's not for
everybody,
you, just don't do it.
and that's okay too. Totally know that that's okay. So set and setting is such a huge deal. That's probably more for your psychedelic kind of like trip, quote unquote, drugs, kind of more like the psilocybins and LSD and stuff like that. I have never tripped on cannabis,
No.
though edibles. Okay, right now. So also in the last couple of years, as things become more legal in all these different states and everything, weed is getting weaponized. So it's really, really strong. It is not the same weed that it used to be. So
We have friends that are in the cannabis industries, like several different friends from different companies. And it's like, oh, wow, there's still a lot that we're trying to work out in terms of like dosages and forms. Like you've got like gummies and mints and vapes
Drinks.
and flour and pre-rolls. And then now they're putting like diamonds in their kush, and there's so much.
yeah,
Wax.
which all that stuff is like pretty much you distill THC down to its molecular form.
Like if you've ever been to
and put that in the joint too.
if you've ever been to a weed store, it's just like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It
And
is pretty crazy.
It's fun to see like the type of people that are there shopping, and the experience is worth it. Even if you're not into cannabis, it might just be worth going to one to see like what's happening here.
Yeah, check it
You're
out.
curious like us.
But yeah, so any of the crazy strong stuff, I would say just take it seriously. You know what I mean? Like maybe don't do that for like your first time, or if you do, obviously don't fucking need to like be doing things later.
Like the fact that
Or
they
any of that
sell,
shit.
like we know
But-
that they sell like a chocolate bar that is 100 milligrams. Okay.
Okay, do not
Do
ever
not
take
ever-
the whole
do
chocolate
never
bar.
eat-
Let me tell you right the fuck now.
Never eat 100 milligrams.
Don't
Like,
do it.
Like, why do they do that? And
Because
and,
some
and my
people-
understanding is that manufacturers and companies are like trying to put more and more because the customer thinks the more milligrams, the more value.
The more value.
But
You're
that's
more
not
bang
true.
for your buck.
You
That's
don't,
how I would think.
You don't want to trip balls. we're big we're like microdose
Yeah,
people.
we'll have like 1 to 3
milligrams.
and just like go right or
And
something.
that is
it's
so much more, like so plenty. It's plenty for me. Maybe some people have different, just like alcohol, they have different
metabolisms or something.
thresholds.
Yeah. But we also had a few, this is interesting too, because this past weekend we were talking to somebody who also was going through this cannabinoid
Poisoning.
Poisoning.
There's a more fancy name, but he was taking like 50 milligrams a day or more.
So all of these people that we know, we're taking like
And
50 to 80.
Your gut brain the cannabinoid receptors get out of whack, and you basically like can't stop puking. So don't do that.
Yeah.
Anything you can abuse.
Now it takes,
anything.
you can abuse anything. And now it takes probably months and months
Probably
of doing
years,
this,
actually.
maybe even years of doing
Yeah.
this. So if you're like, you do it every once in a while, you should probably be okay. But still, that's a ton personally. All right.
There was a time I accidentally took too many milligrams, and I was so horrified. No, it is the worst experience. It's like this amazing
it's
thing.
intense.
Anything can be overdone. Anything. Like it was the worst experience. I was like dry heaving. I was like, nope, I'm never using this substance
I'm dead.
again.
So I think they were like these little Jolly Rancher fuckers, and you finished the whole thing. And I think
On an empty stomach too, which is the worst.
And I think it was,
That was the
I think it was
last time.
25. I think it was 25 milligrams. And I almost finished it,
Nope.
but I like spit the rest out because I was like, as I was having it, I could feel it coming out right. I was like, hold on, let me
See,
chill.
but then I know people that can do this, and it's fine.
And it's fine. It's no big deal for them, but that's great. If you're going to do it, I would say just don't go more than 5.
I would just do 2.
I think too what we're in now is like you figure out with alcohol like, oh, I'm a 2-drink kind of person.
Totally.
And like there's more education coming out with cannabis now.
Yeah.
Where you're learning like, our endocannabinoid system, everyone's is different. So, 5 milligrams for me to just be, that brings my stress level down
Yeah.
could be way too much for someone.
Yeah. For me,
Or-
that's a full-on Disneyland adventure.
Yeah. And then for some people it's like, I feel nothing.
Totally.
So it is
Yeah.
a lot of you really got to do your research and
You
like
do.
you said, just starting low.
Start
that was
low.
huge for me because I was like a 50 milligram chocolate. I'll try it, and then I thought everyone was going to kill me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like,
so
I'm
what
a
was your
man.
experience? Did you have a
Panic.
freak out?
Yeah, I had a full panic attack. I thought my
Panic.
2 friends were going to murder me. I
Yep.
also was convinced that I was going, if I didn't touch a body of water, that I was going to stop breathing.
Wow.
So it it can
these
go
are-
that far.
yeah, it
And then I
can.
was like, no cannabis for me for like
It
a
goes
year.
there.
And then you figure it out. You got to start way lower than that.
You
So-
got to start way lower.
But how fascinating, because if you drink too much, you just black out.
Correct.
Right.
Or you
So this is
start
why
puking.
we find cannabis so fascinating, because for me, a lot of times it is my direct connection with source. Like if I'm being creative and I have like 2 milligrams, like we're talking a microdose, I feel like I'm able to open my third eye more. I'm able to access more of my creative expression and my inner child. It makes me feel like I'm 8-year-old.
Yeah.
Amy.
So you you had, I think it was like 25. I had like 20.
Yeah.
And you could tell on the way up, shit, you were designing art. You were like,
Oh my God,
then you got all these crazy pictures, and then you were like, would you like a frame? And you were like, yes.
I went on allposters.com, and I bought a picture of Adam West as Batman, but like from like the 70s when it wasn't that good yet. And there was like a dead plant behind
There's like
him.
a
and he
tree
was
behind him.
I hope we still have that.
Great
And then
picture.
I went to check out because it was like $10 or something. And I was like, yeah. And I'm stoned. I'm like, I just had 20 milligrams. Like this is I will never do this again. And then it was like, would you like to add a frame? And I was crying. I was laughing so hard. I was like, Nick, look, first of all, look, I'm about to buy a picture of Batman as Adam. We'll have to insert a picture of this because we used to have it hanging in the house.
It was an incredible art piece.
Thank you, All Posters, for having cool pictures. I also got a Willy Wonka one at the time.
That's still in the house.
Of
We can
like
show a
Charlie
picture.
and his
show a picture of
grandfather
that.
like seeing the chocolate room for the first time. And this is like pure joy. This is my inner child. And I was like, no, I'm going to that antique store in Burbank and I'm getting those old frames for like $40 and I'm spray painting them like some bright color.
Mm-hmm.
So it really did. But then after that, it went downhill really fast.
Well, it just didn't stop.
It didn't
It just
stop.
like kept, I remember, like it just kept going and kept
Very
going.
uncomfortable.
And
Was
I
that
remember,
on purpose?
No.
So you didn't know you were taking that much?
No.
No.
We had a friend of ours gave it to us, and they
And
were
it
like,
was-
oh, we had it last weekend. It was
My
no
dad
big
had it.
deal.
It's fine.
Yeah. And so we were like, oh, okay. Because, up until that point, this is
So
this is
listen
years
to
ago.
Uncle Nick and Aunt Amy.
Listen to
We're
your
gonna
Uncle
tell
Nick.
ya. We're going to tell you.
Don't take more than 5 when you're starting out. Now, we definitely knew a bunch of kids that have had like a shitload, 70, 80 milligrams at a time. We also know a bunch of people that took a lot and went to the emergency room because they were freaking out. And the doctor literally is like, here's a water, take a seat. You're stoned. Here's
Yeah,
a
so
bill
just don't-
for $1,200.
Yeah. It's just
So,
not, don't
it's,
do it.
Yeah, or it's like, you just got to wait. You just
Yeah.
got to wait for it to kind of cycle through. If you're having one of those freak out moments, like you are okay.
Yeah.
Just calm down. Maybe you just focus on breathing for a little while. Put
It
a
was
movie
just too
on.
much. It was too much, but I accessed the magic and I do love me some cannabis. Like we really
Yeah.
have a lot of fun together. I don't do it every day. I stagger and it's great. It's really motivating and really helps me to access those creative sparks. Like sometimes you just need a little boost.
Mhm. Yeah, and creating is obviously.
I understand now why the jazz musicians
Oh, hell yeah.
were using it. Like it's just amazing.
There was one of the Ken Burns documentaries or something that we watched at Berkeley. I think they were talking about when Charlie Parker was a heroin addict. And he revolutionized. He was the bebop guy, for anybody who doesn't know, and just absolutely revolutionizing music at the time and jazz in general. So everybody started doing heroin because they were like, well, shit, I got to fucking sound like this guy. So there was like a 10-year period where jazz kind of like stopped evolving because everyone was either dead or in rehab
Oh my God.
because it was just too good.
That's
it was
wild.
too good. They just couldn't,
Yeah.
couldn't hang.
So we've never done heroin, just FYI.
I haven't done heroin. I've never done cocaine.
Cocaine.
I probably should not do cocaine.
Not right
Probably
now.
not. We're not going to let Nick
Not
do
right now.
cocaine.
Yeah, I should probably not do cocaine. But we did do acid last year for the first time.
Yeah.
And it was actually it was a wonderful experience.
Now let's explain how we got this going, right? So we were
Okay.
careful. We were like, okay, read the Steve Jobs book, was like, hey, I'm not going to hire you unless you've done acid and had sex or something. That was like his,
something like
which
that.
is like that would never fly today.
HR nightmare.
HR nightmare. And I was like, what is this? At the time I had used cannabis and I was like, okay, yeah, I mean, they made it sound like the worst thing ever. And then I tried cannabis and I was like, really? This is all it is? It's not that serious, y'all. And so I thought, wow, LSD, that's not acid. That's really intense. I'm never going to do that. But Steve Jobs sure believes in it. And then the years went by and we asked people, like we asked friends, like, hey, did you ever do LSD? Have you ever tried acid? Like, tell us about your experience. Very careful, very researched. We meet these two friends. We don't have to say who, but two people that we met last year that we really have a bond with, like really special, special friends. You know who you are if you're listening. And they were like, hey, let's rent a house in Malibu and let's do acid. And we were like, what? Absolutely. Like, this is exactly how we want to do it. And so it was very careful. And even when we got out there to the house and we were like all ready to hang out, and we have fun with them regardless of what it is. But I got nervous and I was like, I don't know if I want to do it. Like, let's cut them into like little pieces.
Start half at a time.
We ended up taking the full.
I took the whole thing.
We took the full hit. It was unbelievable.
What does it look like?
Well, so LSD is still illegal, right?
Yeah.
So it's so hard to control the portions, I guess, because it's like a liquid that they drop onto something. So some people will take it on a paper or like a piece of sugar cube, but ours was like gel acid. We've even met some people that have acid on toothpicks where they dip the toothpick in it for like a quarter dose, half dose, full dose. So this, again, it's starting to get more sophisticated and careful, especially like psychedelics like LSD, because it was, I think, widely used in like the hippie era, and it's also very demonized because I feel like it's giving our Garden of Eden. It's like,
well, it shows
the way it opens your mind.
It really does. So,
but if you're not ready for it, it's really not, like, it's intense, y'all.
Yeah. I was kind of, okay, so from my personal experience, it was intense. It wasn't as, like you say, it wasn't as intense as everybody makes it out to be. But now it very was.
It was a full hit. I would never do more than one.
Yeah, you
whatever
were.
A hit
Amy,
is.
I would just like look over, and Amy would be like looking at, like, you found a lavender sprig. I remember at one point.
Of lavender.
And she's looking at it, and she started like pulling it apart and looking at it. She's like, look at this fucking shit. Who the fuck made this?
It was.
Look at this. Look at this. It just keeps going.
I saw the perfection of God, of goddess, of source, of the universe in creation. Like, I was able in the sprig of lavender. I did not pull it apart, by the way, because I didn't want to hurt it.
Oh, you didn't?
Like, the fact that it was picked and on the ground,
already
or somebody
such
picked
respect.
it, I was like,
yeah.
oh my God, no.
So that's what it is.
It made me cry.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
it's like the beauty of creation, the perfection of the design of our universe, of this world, and then I smelled it. Then I smelled that fucking sprig of lavender, and my life was changed. I was like,
immediately pissed my pants.
No, I didn't. But I think we were all in our swimsuits at that point at the pool, and it was like, wow, you could feel the sun on you looked at your skin, and it was like alive, and it was decomposing in front. Like, you can see your skin decomposing, and you're totally fine. I was totally fine with it. Because I was like, I'm alive, just like the sprig of lavender. There's like this unity that you feel that is, if you're in the right state of mind, your right setting, friends, everything, and the right dosage, do not overdo acid. Oh my God. It is too powerful, too sacred. We don't have enough research on this shit.
Well, no, we kind of do. We're getting pretty goddamn close. So what it does is it like completely removes your egoic, perception on reality. All right. So you're now seeing it through like, what do they call it? Is it yourself? So you see things strictly as like you're actually just observing
pure soul.
And you see just like your body, and you understand that,
it's temporary.
Mm-hmm.
Had a lot of themes of that. And I was worried because I had read, again, I did my research, and I was okay. People that do acid are like either having a horrible trip, or they're like mortified. Don't look in the mirror. They're like, you're going to see like the impermanence of your body. And it's like, dude, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
I have done a lot of research. I'm like in my mid 30s. Like, at this point, like, I feel like it's a safe time. And I was with people I trusted, and I was just like, damn, that really brought me closer to my soul and to my purpose. I also saw you and I had a breakthrough.
We did.
On LSD.
Oh yeah.
We were like, yo, imagine if we got like a #1 song. And like how fucking incredible that would be. Like, holy shit. Like, that's like our big goal, right? And then we were like, now imagine if we didn't get it. And it was perfect.
And it was also perfect.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
I still get emotional thinking about it because it sticks with you.
Yeah.
Even though saying it on the microphone now doesn't even really make that much sense.
Mm-hmm.
In the moment we were like, it was overwhelmingly peace.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
perfect.
It was incredible. So then it's like by the way, acid lasts like 12 hours. It's so long.
That's what I was going to ask. I was like, so what is, how
I do
long is
distinctly.
it
It was
sit
a
with you?
little too
I think
long.
we took it at like 1 in the afternoon, noon or something, and I distinctly remember it was like laying in bed at 11 o'clock, being like, "All right, here we go."
We're in the
Everything was
Airbnb
just like,
in
yeah, everything.
Malibu, and it was one of those like abstract paintings in front of the bed, and I saw an entire movie unfold, like a village. It was like 2 paint swipes, and I saw like an entire village of people like working, and I was like. Like, it's just, man.
It was kind of fun for me because I had to like just practice. I have like this checklist that I go down in my head where I start like slowing my body down and like slowing everything down to like sleep. But like there were all these bullfrogs.
Oh my God, there's so many
outside
frogs in
too,
Malibu.
and they were so
We
loud,
had the
and we
door
were like,
open.
"Ah!" All of a
Yeah.
sudden they were like, I was like, "Are they in the room? I feel like they're in my skin."
And we had in my skin, and we were playing tiki music all day, which was
Yeah.
so quirky and
And the
so
tiki music,
weird.
we would be having these crazy conversations. The music would like get louder and start crescendoing. But the big thing, seriously, to set in setting is what everybody says. So where you are, your headset that you're
Who
in,
you're with.
the intention that you have
Yeah,
to go into
why
it
are you
with.
doing this?
Why are you doing this? Yeah.
We
I
were
think
like,
all
hey,
of
we
these-
want to see. We just want to see. We want to see what else there is, what other perspective we can gain. And I mean, I was laying in bed too after looking at the 2 paint swipes of the entire village and movie unfolding, and I closed my eyes. And I felt like I was a pea in a pod with a bunch of other peas, and we were decomposing into the ground. And it was the most wonderful feeling I have ever felt.
See, that might freak some people out.
That's what I'm saying,
But
y'all.
when you're there
Thank
at the
you.
time and
Thank
you're
you.
so the other big
if you're
thing,
not ready, that's completely fine.
totally
Just
fine.
saying.
No worries.
That was our experience.
The big thing that everybody says is when you are confronted, when you first are confronted with any kind of fear or any kind of whatever, you have to just surrender to it. Whatever this feeling is, if you try to fight it,
Right.
you will have a bad experience.
Yeah, that seems to be the case.
And that's also usually this kind of the same with fucking life, people.
Period.
But so it's kind of the same thing. It's just it becomes so obvious, and so you're so aware of it at the time. But if you do surrender to it and you relax into it, then it becomes this euphoric experience where you do supposedly, quote unquote, see the other side.
Yeah.
You start to get it.
Yep.
And it's this beautiful. It just like you're saying, you don't fear death anymore.
Yeah.
You don't.
There it is. There it is.
Come on.
Yeah.
What the fuck are we talking about?
That's really so maybe I don't need to trip on mushrooms because we went from cannabis to LSD. That's like a huge jump to me on
I
the
ask
scale.
too,
We've
what
also
was-
done shrooms a bunch of times, but haven't reached the what you would call ego melt,
Right.
ego death phase.
I'll tell you why in a second.
What was the onset like? From
Of
'cause you know, like
LSD?
when you do an edible, it can hit you. It could take up to an hour.
Yeah, edibles take forever, and
pre-roll,
LSD took
pre-test.
like 45,
Oh, it did.
It was
Okay.
kind of similar, 30
It took
to an
a
hour
while.
maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
and it was a gradual. It's almost like when you do a cannabis edible too, you're kind of like, do I feel it?
Yeah.
And as soon as you question it, you do.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
Like, well,
it was
there
the
is.
same with LSD, and then it starts the rise.
Got it.
Like, same with cannabis. That's why I really enjoyed the acid experience because it felt really similar to cannabis, but different. And
very light,
much more
too.
spiritual.
Yeah, much
me.
more spiritual.
To me.
It also felt less.
But our bodies were very dialed. Our energy was very active.
Oh God, I couldn't sit. Everything acts like an upper to me, which is why I should never do cocaine.
Right.
But like I had to I had to get up and move around. I was doing push-ups and shit. I
Yep.
was fucking.
It just felt good to use your body because you realize it's temporary and you're like, this is amazing.
And you appreciate it, and you're not really like hungry a lot. I don't think we ate much throughout the day.
No,
It's
that's
a very,
normal.
It was a very light feeling.
Well, your body's like experiencing kind
An
of trauma.
intense-
It's poison, basically,
an intense
right?
experience. Yeah.
Mushrooms are poison, technically.
Is it?
Poison that you are able to digest and process and survive.
It's in China. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And cannabinoid poisoning, like it's a very, again, you can't overdo these things and you don't want to just do them all the time. After the
Yeah,
acid, I was
don't
like,
do it all
I
the
don't
time.
need to do this again for a long time, if ever.
And like MDMA or like Molly, something like that.
And
'cause
that's what they're
also-
seeing in research is they're like, people do one time
And
with
they're
a
good.
therapist, boom,
Yeah.
done. Like,
that's what I was going to ask. So it's a different kind of experience than doing, smoking a pre-roll or having an edible.
yeah.
It's not something that you would be like,
You can't
wait for Saturday, going to do it again.
Although when we did, our friends who found the toothpick dosage of LSD were able to deliver a quarter dose. And we did that at our friend's birthday, thinking like, okay, well, we know what this is. A quarter dose should be manageable. It was wonderful. Microdosing is going to become huge in the LSD space. I think it already is in
And
mushrooms.
It's big in psilocybin. Yeah.
And you and I do it with cannabis because it's very small amounts.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, the one we missed was MDMA or moon rocks was the form that we had because this is different. Okay, y'all.
Okay, yeah. So this
is
one
like the only other drug we can talk about. That's all we have.
This one was
Yeah.
a little bit more aggressive. So I remember I was having it was a rainy day, and we were like, let's take this and see what happens, and just kind of like talk, because I think we were also trying to.
A friend that we trust who is connected with a source that has clean MDMA,
Yep.
which is also called ecstasy.
Yep.
Or Molly, gave us some like digestible pills. So we were like, oh yeah. And we had tried like we tried to microdose it and nothing happened.
Yep, that's right.
So we were like, shit,
anything.
well, let's just like take the rest of it, I guess. You know,
And it was
which was a very
like
small amount still.
Yeah, and it was like a rainy day, and we were hanging out. I think had some like creative questions or some kind of direction things that we wanted to answer.
Yeah.
And so
Our intention was like, show us something.
Show us inward. Let's go inward.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which MDMA is a very
well,
outward.
it felt very
Okay, we were like over here like trying to be spiritual, and no, ecstasy was not.
Well, okay, so I was out on I was having a phone call with somebody.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden I was outside, and I started like noticing. I was like, oh wow, it feels pretty cold out here. And then I was like, huh, that's weird. And then I look inside, and I see just walking back and forth. And I'm like, huh, that's funny. And then I go inside because I'm like, oh, I'm kind of cold.
Yeah.
So I go inside and I close the door, and all of a sudden it was like, shh, all the sound just like stopped, because I was used to the outside noise.
City, yeah.
And then all of a sudden everything became super silent, and I stopped, and then I just started noticing like my heart rate and everything, and I was like, hey, dude, you know what? I gotta go.
Yeah, I'm gonna hang up the phone now.
Yeah.
So the way that the MDMA hit me was like, my heart just boom, like started beating out of my chest, and I was like, I don't like this. I had to move, or else I was worried that my chest was gonna explode. So this is why I think people use MDMA at concerts and Coachella, because they're moving, they're out, they want to feel the beat. Like, because once you get over that hump of like, you start moving, your blood starts pumping, and it becomes fun. It does become fun and ecstatic. You become ecstasied.
Yeah.
But I didn't like the artificialness of it. Like, to me, it felt artificial. And
in comparison to LSD,
we'll tell you about the trip.
You did, yeah.
Right. We'll tell you about the trip, but the come down was also extreme for me. The depletion of the serotonin, right? So apparently ecstasy like makes your serotonin levels extremely high.
Dopamine, it just kind of
shoots it all. Your whole supply shoots out.
Yeah.
And then you're just wasted at the end. You're just it wasn't like, I would compare it to depression, but like an emptiness. And I couldn't move. Like it was like hours. Like you want to just go to bed after.
Well, I remember I didn't have the emptiness feeling so much, but I just became so exhausted.
But even if I was like, hey, Nick, and I told you a joke, you would just be like, ha ha.
Yeah, couldn't know. So
like very dead.
I took like a 45-minute nap.
It was weird.
And then after that, I was fine. But there is like a complete, because the energy levels that you're exuding just aren't sustainable.
It's not sustainable.
So like, you got to everything, it's not like it just came out of nowhere. You got to like pay it back at some point. You know what I'm
it was
saying?
an incredible, like,
so
it felt great. It was like,
I
need to take all my clothes off.
All the clothes
naked,
just came off. Yeah, we definitely did not.
And it's just like, it's definitely like your heart rate. I feel like somebody should study this shit more.
We totally did not have sex at all.
Period.
Yeah.
But it was like sweaty and like, but it was almost like sex didn't matter either.
What?
Cause
oh my God. This next week on House of Herbie, they get a
real.
divorce live.
The drugs episode that ruined the entire podcast.
Everything was great until episode 18.
This is all we have. Like, that was
This is why we make a Patreon for this.
The MDMA was like, it was just Crazy.
So it wasn't as spiritual
No.
at all.
Well,
Was
there
it more body?
something
No,
spiritual
so
to it, but it was
was-
frantic.
There was something a little more.
It didn't feel respectful. It felt like frantic, right? I was like, take me on a date first. You know?
Yeah, seriously.
So it made me sad because I also am trying to relate to people that are at concerts because that's like my thing. I want to go and perform concerts. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, doing this at a concert would be insane and amazing. But I'm also like, damn, like, it's just like balls to the wall. That's what that was for me.
Yeah. The dam has been released.
Yeah.
And it's like, here we go.
And how long did that one last?
That lasted
That was
probably
like 6 to 8 hours.
I want to say like 5 to 6.
Okay. So that's a little shorter.
A little short.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is nice too. That's probably why it's so popular because it's not, I mean, come on, who has 12 hours?
Dude,
LSD, you need to chill.
I remember sitting there, but yeah, LSD also felt to me, at least in my brain, because it affects everybody differently, it felt more like something that you could kind of turn on and off.
Yeah.
Sometimes with mushrooms, it's like
the pool guy showed up.
yeah,
The pool
at
guy
the
showed
spot.
up at the Malibu house.
You know,
and we
and
were
we're
like,
just, we're all sitting around like
I was like seeing the
Well-
secrets of the universe and I was like, he's
Yeah.
here. There's a man.
Is it
He's
real?
coming. Yeah.
yeah, is it real? No, it wasn't like
No,
that.
we
with
knew
me
it
totally.
was fully real. Me and my friend like went inside.
Yeah, you
Me
guys
and one
went
friend
inside.
went outside, and then you and our other friend stayed outside, and we were both watching you like, oh my god, they're freaking out right now.
But it wasn't. I wasn't at all. I genuinely wanted to. I was like, this is another person.
And the pool guy wouldn't leave because we were such high vibrational.
Yeah,
I was
he
like, oh
wouldn't
my god,
leave.
he's gonna stay for like an hour. This is the highlight of his day right now.
Well, it's entertaining.
'Cause
Jesus.
we're basically, like,
you come show up
enlightened.
at the pool and there's
People on acid.
that's a great story. No, but I was like, this. You immediately see everything for what it is. This is another soul.
Yeah.
Coming in
Yes.
just doing his job.
He wasn't a pool guy. It was a soul.
Yeah, and
coming
so
in,
like,
and you were
so I
like-
just wanted to like touch base with him for a little while. Just kind of like I had time. So just you kind of touch
And
base
because you
for a
gave
few
him the
little
time
while.
of the day, because like out in Malibu, like in the hills, like there ain't nobody out there. Like he
Yeah.
was like, oh damn, I haven't talked to another person today.
So and we just kind of like shot the shit or whatever, and then after a little while, it was like, okay, well now we're gonna keep going if that's okay, and thank you so much. We're good for right now, and and that was good. It was all set, but yeah, it was such an it was definitely an interesting experience because I also remember distinctly having the thought like, am I gonna get angry or am I gonna get?
But did you?
I didn't at all.
See?
It didn't at all. Like it didn't really. It was a thought, but it never became close to
This
a
would
reality.
be in the research and the studies that I would do on these substances is I would try to test people in different situations, like see how it affects the ego. How does it open you up?
Okay, I would be totally down if anybody wants to. This might be too far for people, but if we should do either like an edibles episode or just do all of it. Shit, we got time. Let's do an edibles episode. Let's do
I'm not doing acid on the podcast.
let's do it. Maybe or just
Who knows?
psilocybin.
We could film it just for the Patreon.
Oh God.
Patreon.com/House of Herby. Let's go.
go.
If you want to be our sugar daddies, by the way, this is the only way.
So there's been a few different times too we've done mushrooms, but it wasn't a fully at least one time in general I tried to have like the ego melt.
So the first time that we
Ego
tried
death.
mushrooms, it was in Vegas. It was like 125 degrees.
Oh my God. It was like one of those weekends where it was like it was still 110
And we
degrees at midnight.
We had a reliable source and we were like, yeah, let's do it. And it was the actual fucking mushrooms, like the fucking, if you're on Patreon, you can see, but like I'm making the shape of a mushroom, right? Dried ass, stinky,
Tastes terrible.
not good flavor,
Yeah.
chewing on the stems and the caps. And they were like, okay, you weigh how much? You're 120 pounds? Okay, cool. We're going to give you this many. And you weigh what? We'll give you a little bit more. And then you wait like an hour. It still takes like an hour. And this is just raw mushroom. I don't know. To me, y'all, it just felt like cannabis, but like mixed with too much caffeine. Like it made me so sweaty and hyper, but I was still like, had like kind of a stoner feeling. I was accessing something. And then there was another boy who was there who did a lot. He did like twice as much as I did.
He did. I think he did the same amount, dude.
This is why we need studies. We need research.
He did. I'm pretty sure we all took the same amount.
Dude, bro had like an ego melt. He was in a
He was-
blanket,
yeah.
like shaking in the corner. I was like, okay, I'm
Poor
out. I'm out.
kid.
We were out doing like pull-ups.
Oh, I could not sit still.
We were like,
again,
and
it
they were
was an
trying to
upper.
play like electronic music, and I was like, listen, we need to play hip hop. I can't.
Well, there was a thing like we would
The electronic
forget.
music made me want to sit in the corner with a blanket. Okay. If I put in the hip hop music and then they were like, what is this? Where are we?
It was really funny.
It was just not the
would,
right set or setting.
Well, I would, he'd be like covered under the blankets. And as he came out of he is okay, by the way.
He survived.
As he came out of it, he was like, that was incredibly necessary. And that was such an experience that he needed to have.
Yeah.
But, at the moment it was so anyway, he was literally like covered in blankets. You couldn't see that he's on the couch. So we'd go in sometimes or like, grab some drink, some water or something. And it would be this music playing, and we'd be like, oh, there's nobody in here. So we'd change it over to hip hop to like vibe out. And then he would come up.
He would come out and be like, what's
under
happening?
The blankets, like, what is happening?
I'm
like,
sure to him it was like too aggressive.
It was way too intense.
Oh, man.
It was so funny.
So
he was
that
like,
was tough.
Just tweaking out.
And that was the same thing with LSD. Like, we were not hungry on mushrooms, no food. It kind of makes your stomach feel fucked up.
It did hurt so the next day, my stomach did not
and
feel
I already
great.
have like GI sensitivity, so I was like, nah, sis.
Yeah.
So then I was like, well, why don't we try the purified psilocybin powder in a capsule, right? So you can take these microdose pills, which we ended up getting from another reliable source later. And I was like, well, microdosing will be very... Stop. What is a reliable source?
What is a reliable source?
Well, when we have more legalization and regulation, it will be much easier to do these things. But it was still, it was very pure. And we ended up taking those tiny, tiny microdose versions. And it's still, y'all, it felt like coffee to me. Like I felt hype. But I will say, day 2, the clarity that I experienced, I was like, oh, those lanes in my brain, those little pathways are clean. It was like the snow melted. But it was, for me, it was the next day.
Oh, nice. Off of the full trip or of the microdose?
The microdose. Well, the full trip was like garbage to me. I was like, I don't know. This is like, no, I was underwhelmed. I was like, no, thanks. I'll stick with cannabis. Because cannabis, at least I like to eat on cannabis. I love some snacks. Let's go to the McDonald's drive-thru. Having a great time, right?
Let's get a McFlurry.
Let's go. Oreo, please. But with mushrooms, you don't have an appetite, and it's just like kind of. But I could tell it was more of that spiritual experience. So, so the purified psilocybin capsules that are microdose was much better for me. I feel like we know you so much better now. This community is so tight knit.
I just want you to say yes. I want you to do mushrooms on the podcast so that we can do mushrooms on the podcast.
Okay. Well, if you like Nick better than you like me,
or edibles, we'll do edibles too. Just 5 milligrams.
I'll do whatever they say on the Patreon.
Uh-oh.
Let us know in the Discord.
My sugar daddies have a lot of pull.
You say.
Man, we took it there for this episode, didn't we?
Sure did.
So there you have it. We just put it all out. Put our whole pussies out.
Let's put our dicks online.
Have a nice night. Thank you for tuning in for this episode. We're so grateful to have you here as part of the House of Herby community. If you're interested in joining our Patreon, you can become our sugar daddies, which is like pretty exciting. For $5 a month, you can become a sugar daddy. That's pretty great. Patreon.com/House of Herby. If you're interested, we have a bunch of other extra surprises for you. And if you're supporting us anywhere else, even if you don't join the Patreon, we appreciate you so much. We will see you next week for some more exciting adventures. Mwah!